Yo, what's going on, guys? Hope everybody's having a great day today. So, in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about feature flags and why they're so important in the code base to where you want to grant users access to particular features that you're developing so that you don't have to manually go into the code, add new user permissions, and deploy it when you could easily make a mistake. And then you have to create a hotfix and do it all over again. So feature flags can be maintained in two different ways. You got to do it through the database, meaning like you have a user table with all of the roles that are associated with that user, and you could turn on different features based on that user role. Now, like I said in the beginning, that could come with a lot of issues when your app is scaling and you're developing a feature and you don't want to keep it isolated from the different environments to where it could get stale. You have to actually make sure that you update your branch with all the new changes that are being developed so that you don't run into merge conflicts. And you could run into a lot of potential issues with failing those merge conflicts and introducing another bug into the system. Feature flags, at least at the database level, if you could change it on the fly, you could grant certain users access to a particular feature, but it's not maintainable. It's not easy to maintain. And the more you scale it out, the harder it will be. The biggest thing that you guys could do, at least if you're looking for a feature flag system that you could implement into your app, you could go with something that's a third party out there. And the best one right now is LaunchDarkly. Hands down, the best feature flag system I've ever used. Simple to set up out of the box. It works for different areas, different programming languages like React, Python. You would just have to create the context provider around that, and it's just a wrapper around your app to see, who should have access to what particular features that you created a feature flag in their system. And say, for example, if you wanted to grant a user access based on email. You can easily do that. You could also create a context around user groups or permissions, and you could choose what groups should have access to that particular feature in that moment. And in real time, you will see those new changes. So when the user logs in or is currently logged in, you can see the feature that you should have access to. Say, for example, if we're going to remove you from like a trial or something like that, you could just remove them from LaunchDarkly, and then that feature will go away in real time. The purpose of this video is just to give you a breakdown of the power of feature flags. And I'm trying to persuade you to go that route because maintaining it your way, at least on the database side and then also on the front end, you're going to run into a lot of issues. So here I have a demo app that I put together using AI. And I'm telling you right now, if you guys are not using AI, you're behind the curve. So I was recommended Claude Code to look into, and by far, I'm very impressed with its ability to just create a basic app on the fly. And the code actually wasn't too bad. There's some areas that you could improve on, and you could tell it to improve on those areas based on your coding style. But Claude Code literally built this in like 5 to 10 minutes, and I just gave it simple instructions. Here I have a simple app that allows you to switch through different personas. So like if you go on a website, they have a free service, they have a premium service and an admin service, right? That grants you access to a system or allows you to do other things that are behind the paywall. Here I have a free user that has limited access to everything. And this is like a feature flag debug to ensure the developer that this user, if it uses the free plan, that they shouldn't have access to these areas, okay? In these areas, at least from a dev console, this will tell us these are the feature flags in play. All right. So you would create a feature flag state in this app, and it will tell you if this user is part of this group, they should have access to it immediately. As you can see, for the free user, and what's cool about this is it's draggable. I made this draggable using Claude Code, by the way. Listen, go to Claude Code. I'm gonna put a link in the description. You gotta do it, bruh. You gotta do it. So here you see that the free user doesn't have access to advanced analytics. So if you wanted to view dashboards and all that stuff, the basic user won't have access to this. Any custom themes. So like you go on a website, you got dark mode, light mode, Hello Kitty. Like I've seen that, which is funny. But you could create your own themes. You could probably like customize that a little bit. With the free user, you don't have that plan. Admin panel, You can't manage anything. You can't do any ad hoc things. Beta features that come out for product, you won't have access to that either because you're not paying it any money for a service. You can't export data, obviously, because we're not maintaining that data. And then why would you need support for what if you're not paying a service? This tells us that whenever someone signs up as a free user, they won't have access. Okay. Now, for a premium user, you could see that they have access to advanced analytics. So they could do user engagement, they could see the revenue, they could do custom reports, they could choose their own theme. They won't have access to the admin panel or beta features, but they could export their data and they also have priority support. 24/7, dedicated account management, all that stuff. If there's any bugs that are reported, they get escalated and they are fixed. All right. And then for an admin user, they have access to all this stuff because they're admin. Okay. So this is beneficial to when a user needs, say, for example, if you have a feature that you're building that's going to benefit a large customer base, but you want to test against a particular customer that requested that feature first. You could easily add that into a feature flag system for these particular email addresses. They should have access to it. And then it will grant them access to that feature. They could trial it. We could figure out if there's any bugs within that feature, if you're doing any logging or tracking on that stuff. LaunchDarkly is pretty good with that. So I would recommend that as well. I'll also put in the description the different feature flag systems that you can use that could be beneficial for whatever project that you're working on. Let me just dive into the code real quick on how this was built. The way this works, and if I go at the app level, you can see that we have this feature flag provider, which is a wrapper around the entire app. So the dashboard, the persona switcher, which is, clicking these buttons. And then the dashboard obviously is just the feature dashboard, right? The feature flag debugger, which is this guy right here, is just ingests all the feature flags, and then it tells me as a developer who should have access to what. So let's dive into the actual provider because that's the most important thing here. So the provider here, if I scroll up to the top, you can see that we have an interface which basically defines in TypeScript what we're looking at here. So we have a user type, a feature flags type, a state setter, which is for the role, which is going to either be free, premium, or admin strings. That's what we support right now. And then either this feature flag is enabled. So it has to be within this type, whether this is true or false. Okay. And the way we look at this is if I go back to the context, you can see right here, we have this function called get feature flags for roles. All right. So based on the selected user role, free, premium, or admin, we are going to allow a user to have access to certain features. Okay. I'm going to show you in real time, if I make a change to this, what would happen on our front end. So the first thing that we're going to do is actually change something for the premium user. So if we go back, look at our premium user. They have access to advanced analytics, custom themes. They don't have access to the admin panel, and they don't have access to beta features. After talking with product and going at the company at a high level, at the business sense, they feel like a premium user should have access to beta features just to secure more business. Makes total sense to me. So once that's approved and you're working your day to day as a developer, you'll get a ticket. Hey, grant premium users access to this particular tier for their account. Okay, cool. Right? So as a developer, if I was using a third-party system like LaunchDarkly, I would just go into LaunchDarkly and just create a persona for that. Okay, for the premium users. They will have access to beta features now. But in this case, we don't have that, right? Everything is being maintained here. So all I would need to do is this. Watch this. I go here, do beta features, right? Set it to true. Now, when I go back into my app, look what happened. Beta features, right? And say, for example, we made a change. You're like, you know what? I'm not really feeling the data export for premium users now. We're going to cut that back or at least limit it. Well, guess what I'm going to do? I already have my base flags here, which are all false. So all I need to do is remove this export data Boolean. And now when I go back into my app, you can see that data export doesn't work for premium users. This is where you get that granular control over what users have access to what. And this is very important because if you miss, say for example, if I fat fingered adding access, and this is for real, this is a major problem. This is why you need to have something that's third party, because if this is in the front end and you're maintaining this on the front end, oh, you're going to run into a problem, especially if this is deployed and it needs to be reported. Okay. So when I flip back, I gave the premium account access to the admin panel. So now we can see everything that a developer can see. That's not good. That is not good. So that's why I advocate using a third party system, because everything that is maintained here, you have to do it on the front end. You also, on the database side, you need to make sure that is maintained by an admin on the database side, because you could easily make a change and it could break functionality and also grant access to areas that you should have access to. So as you can see, I rolled that back and I'm fine. In real time, this is what would happen using that. When I go back to the code, you can see here, just changing this up, and adding different roles and attributes to accounts that should have access is going to save you a lot of time and headache to figure out what's going on. And the code is pretty self-explanatory. So we have this user type that takes an ID, a name, email, and role, right? Um, and the current role, depending on who you click on, will be stored in this object. And as you can see, when we go back to the app, that's all being used here. So you got the actual name of that user, you got the email, and you got the current role that it should be assigned to, and the highlight and all that stuff. So feature flags in a nutshell is very important. And the app that was built by Claude Code, with just me giving it instructions. It added all the CSS, it added everything else. I just told it exactly what to build, and it did it. And I have it here, so you can see everything here. I told it even before. I felt like this should be draggable, so you could get it out the way and you could look at other things and not just be fixed to the right, because it was fixed to the right hand corner, which is fine. But if you wanted to read this and look at the layout, I made this draggable. So if I go back to the code, you can see that I asked it, hey, can you make this draggable? And it wrote out the code to make it draggable using event triggers in the browser. Pretty cool stuff. The only thing with Cloud Code, though, is that you need to add credits. I paid $5 for credits just to run this, and it's relatively cheap to keep using it. I might go with the pro version, so I could just pay $10, $20 a month for this. I think this is very beneficial if you want to get an application like a boilerplate template of an application running without having to do all the heavy lifting and build the back end, build the front end, have it help you pair program an application and make it work the way you want to, and use UI frameworks and all that stuff. But in a nutshell, feature flags are great. It's just a wrapper around your app to give you granular access to certain areas, okay? And it makes sure that you have a peace of mind. If you were to roll things back, all you have to do is just go into that feature flag system and roll back those changes. But if you have any questions on feature flags, let me know. You know what I'm saying? You can reach out to me by email at thefullstackworld@gmail.com, or in the comments. Let me know. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, and we'll talk soon.